Hi, everybody. Welcome to the August edition of the Shop Owner Roundtable. So we're excited to get started. It's kind of amazing. The summer is almost over. Definitely feels like it in Phoenix. So before we get started, standard disclaimer, we've got great guests today. We're going to give a lot of advice on different topics, but just our opinions. Please make sure you consult with your advisors on your specific situation. So with that out of the way, let's welcome our guests. So as always, joined by Chris O'Brien, Chief Operating Officer of Full Bay. So again, Chris, yeah. I'm glad we're doing this one in person. I think the last one we did, we were remote.
It's hot, and I'm definitely tan, apparently. So that is from this sun.
Awesome. And then we have two great guests today, so Jordan and Matt. And before we do the real introductions, we started a new challenge that you guys were the first ones to take part in. So we've got a great little setup here in our office in Phoenix, and we've decided that before you get to know our guests, you got to learn what kind of a shot they are. So we set up a pretty fun little game, and we've got a video to show you guys before we get into introductions for you.
Is it rock, paper, scissors, shoot, or you just do rock, paper, scissors?
Rock, paper, scissors.
All right. Okay.
All right, so that was a fun little game. Matt was the winner, so we're going to introduce Matt first, or let you introduce yourself first. But you've set the initial record, so everyone who comes after you is going to be chasing your score down.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll stand for very long. But.
Well, you got at least a couple of months until we bring in the next group to challenge you. So, well, great. Well, Matt, maybe we can flip over to you, and you can introduce us to yourself and to EMS.
Okay. Well, I started. When I was a kid in my dad's tire shop, kind of the rule was when I started there was you had to be old enough to be able to lift the tire up on the machine. So I'm not quite sure what age that was, probably 13, but that's where I kind of started my mechanicing career, was at my dad's shop. So after that, I did a few other things. I worked for like a case dealership as a mechanic / salesman. And after that, I started my career working for a construction company, and we did mainly heavy civil engineering. So we did a lot of road construction, mine reclamation, that kind of stuff, power plant work. So I started there as a field mechanic, and I eventually made it up to like a field supervisor over the other job sites and mechanics. And then a couple years later, went into equipment management for those guys. So I ran their equipment department, all their shops, all the mechanics and all the equipment. So I spent quite a few years doing that, and loved every bit of it, and then decided to kind of break off on my own, build something for me and my kids or something to hand down to my kids eventually, I guess. So that's kind of why I broke off of there, and that's where the name of the company came from, was Equipment Management Solutions. I loved managing equipment, but I wanted to go out on my own. So kind of kept a little bit with me when I left. So when I left there, I went out on my own, like Jordan, one truck, one man, and got scared because probably had a day where I wasn't doing something, made phone calls, went to work in the oil field in North Dakota. So I was living in Casper, Wyoming at the time, went all the way up to Williston, North Dakota when it was booming, and brought 5 techs with me from the company that I had previously been working for. And so I went from a one-man show to 6 of us working out of trucks in a matter of a month. And so it was trial by fire. I did a lot of things wrong. That's where most of my experience comes from, is doing it wrong and making costly mistakes. So we eventually exited the oil field when it started to bust. And to get back home, my hometown was Miles City, Montana. So in order to get back there, I opened up a truck shop because that's what was readily available. Not a lot of construction in Miles City. We still do heavy equipment, a lot of mobile work, but our primary stuff is a lot of trucks and towing, and then some mobile stuff at the mines and power plants. So So that's kind of where we're at now.
Well, thanks for the overview, and
Yeah.
appreciate you being here. I think your experience on that journey over the last 13 or 14 years since you started EMS is going to be really valuable for,
Yeah,
for the audience.
It's been nice because I've been on both sides of the invoice, right? So I've paid a lot of mechanics, contract mechanics like Jordan or myself when I was the equipment manager, and then I spent majority of my time writing invoices. So I get to see both sides and know the struggles that everybody has. So.
That's awesome. All right, well, Jordan, let's get to our second place finisher in the shootout. So, we're not going to say out of how many, but
Oh, yeah.
you
No,
know,
it's
second place was Jordan. So can you introduce us to Six Gun and yourself?
Sure. So my name's Jordan Steen, calling Northwest Iowa home, kind of up in the tri-state area there. And basically, I got started when I came out of school as an intern. I was an intern while I was in school, worked for a Caterpillar dealer as an intern and out of school, and spent time at pretty much every major dealer as far as brand-wise. Cat, Komatsu, Deere, Case, I mean, pretty much you name it, I worked for them. And was just tired of losing the ability to have more autonomy and one-on-one with a customer to be able to do as much as I could to help them. And it felt good to be able to have a customer, you know, everywhere that I went that was like, hey, I want him to show up, you know, and you realize you're doing something right when the customers ask for you to show up rather than just call the dealership and say, can somebody come? So, so I actually opened my own shop officially on April 1st, 2022, so right in the middle of COVID. Great idea. But it worked out good for my family and everything like that to have a little more flexibility in my schedule, run my own hours, and been, you know, full bulls on parade since then. So it's just me, I guess, running a mobile repair. So I have a heavy equipment truck with a crane and everything. So I work on just heavy equipment, so material handling equipment and construction equipment. Yep.
Great. Well, appreciate both of you being here. I think this will be a good hour for us. Before we get into the questions, for the audience, I wanted to highlight, you know, how this platform works that we're using. So you'll notice you have a Q&A section. So if you have any questions that you want the panel to address, please put them there. And then there's an audience chat function, which is more, you know, back and forth between the audience. So if you can use those to interact, we'll go through as many questions that get submitted to the Q&A as possible. But maybe I'm going to start with some uniqueness in the industry.
Yeah, we were chatting earlier, and there's clearly a difference between heavy equipment repair and semi-truck trailer type repair. And if you guys could kind of walk us through what are the major differences, because I know we've got labor guides, we've got other types of labor standards and SRTs, but it's just a little bit different when it comes to heavy equipment. And maybe we'll just start with you, Matt, and then we'll switch over to you, Jordan.
So the primary difference is heavy equipment is mostly mobile because of the sheer fact that it's big equipment, it's expensive to move. They usually won't take time out of their project to move it back to a shop. It just doesn't work. So most all equipment is repaired in the field.
And heavy equipment, it's massive machinery. This is like
it can weigh a couple 100,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's big. I mean, right down to you could have things that weigh 20, 30,000 pounds. It's easier to move, but typically everything is serviced on site. Like it doesn't ever leave site. So it's the only time I've ever seen it leave site is, you know, in Montana we have 2 seasons. We have winter and road construction, and so during the winter, if it's a big enough project, we'll move it back to the shop. But most of the time, it's done in the field. Engine swaps, transmissions, everything. Typically, we wouldn't do any component rebuilding in the field. But the nice thing about equipment is it's built in components. So you can easily pull the engine, transmission, the torque converter out separately, take it back to a clean environment, rebuild it, put it back. So everything's built modular on equipment. Cat's the best at it because they're meant to be rebuilt. Everything else is kind of fallen suit, but nothing's built like Cat to be rebuilt. Cat's had it thought out for years. They've got pick points on every component where it can be picked out. Most of the other stuff, John Deere and all those, it's an afterthought. Like you're trying to wrap chains and straps and trying to get it out. It's miserable. But
now, do you have to have special equipment for that? Like, are you coming out with cranes and different equipment to help manage that?
Yeah. So your trucks are always equipped with a crane. So depends on the size of the truck you're running, is how big a crane you have. But most everything's too heavy to lift I'm right down to the cutting edges, or you can lift them, but you won't last long in this industry if you're back around
All right.
cutting edges and stuff. So you swing everything that your crane on your trucks use every day.
So is this like time and materials? Or are you doing a labor guide? Like, is there some magical guide?
I don't know that there's any labor guide out there.
So when I was at Deere, we had flat rate labor guides, and we got paid on production. So your efficiency bonus was what gained you money in the long run. Like, we made decent money hourly, and then you could make up to $8 an hour more on your efficiency. So it was hours billed versus hours that you were clocked in, and then that times your actual hours versus the flat rate they'd figured out for it. So say we're R&I an engine on a Deere wheel loader, say they quoted it 25 hours to R&I the engine, you did it in 22, and you billed all your hours of your days to the job. So you were 100% efficient, and you were 100% billed on your hours, but then you were better than what the flat rate was. So you're like 105% of what it was supposed to take, and that gives you a calculation, and you'd make more money that way to do it better.
But it was all just internal labor times that the SRTs that they had determined over time?
Right. So those Deere had some a long time ago, and it's a pretty good size Deere dealership, and they'd fought with John Deere for the labor rates that they'd come up with. And so it was more reasonable of labor times for the technician, and they basically negotiated with Deere for Deere to pay that for warranty-wise and things like that. So, just like say you're R&I in a water pump or something like that, Deere's flat rate might be 2 hours, and there's no way you can realistically get it done in 2 hours. So theirs might be 3.5, and a good tech that's seasoned and understands the machine can get it done in 3.25 or something like that. Then you're making a little bit better money. The customer knows what it's going to cost to get done, and in the end, they're hoping it ends up being a win for everybody.
So is it mostly just you guys are hitting the job site, time and materials, and then it just how long it takes within reason?
Yeah, there's just so many variables you can't really account for. The weather plays a factor, the rust, the maintenance of the machine. I mean, you got to have a torch and stuff like that on your truck, a crane. You were talking about cranes. We were slinging batteries with cranes because you're talking a 100+ pound battery you got to sling it 6 foot up in the air into the excavator. Well, I'm not carrying it. No. I'm not going to get 4 of them up there. I'm going to be dead by the end of that. So you hook to the crane, swing it around, and be done with it. But
to the labor rates, I don't think that those John Deere rates and stuff, or the flat rates, I don't think they're available to the public.
Correct. They're not going to tell you those.
Yeah, the dealers have that stuff, and they built it off of their own experience. Mm-hmm. And of course, Mother Deere is paying warranty, right, and so they want to have a flat rate. But to get that as a private person, I don't think you can get it.
Nope. We had some basic spreadsheets when I was at a Caterpillar dealer, but that was all internal stuff they'd built themselves too. Yeah. And in the field, flat rates pretty much go out the window.
Now, how are you torquing to spec? Do you have to have special equipment that'll hit some of these torque specs?
Ugg-and-Duggas.
Yeah, or you got
Ugg-and-Duggas. Yeah, 3 Ugg-and-Duggas, 4 Ugg-and-Duggas. Yeah.
I mean, I've got a 4-to-1 multiplier, so I can torque up to 1,800 foot-pounds on the truck, and
all right,
everything above that, you're talking like a high torque wrench to get stuff like that done. When you're over 2,000 foot-pounds to actually torque something tight, you can break free stuff with a 1-inch impact, but you don't know what you're going to tighten it to. So when you're doing major components, just
and a high torque's a hydraulic torque wrench.
Correct.
Oh,
it's pressure based. Yeah. So it's like 6,000 psi.
Yeah, so
is what your torque spec is.
It looks like an impact wrench, but it'll have an arm on it to catch. So you got to put it up against something so it can build torque. But it's hydraulic.
So these aren't your Harbor Freight hand tools you're buying. This is higher end. So if you were to compare, for a semi truck trailer repair, outfitting a truck for that with all the tools that it would need compared to this type of heavy equipment, is it 2, 3, 5x difference in cost?
It kind of depends on where you land in the industry of what size of machinery you're working on and how brand specific you want to be. Because brands are fairly decent about being similar on like metric sizes. So Cat really likes certain metric sizes all their hardware is. So I could literally pull up to a Cat machine and I know that's an 18 mil head on that bolt. Whereas Deere, it might be 19, Komatsu, it might be 19, it might be 17 on a case machine. So there's a lot of variation based on the machine that you're working on, and it just ends up being your cost of repairing that machine changes based on your desire to work on more than one manufacturer's machine. Yep.
Yeah, the real cost gets into the specialty stuff like a track press. Like I
Yep,
think
I've got a
you
track
bought
press.
a track
Yep.
press. They're a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
What would you what a track
30
press
grand
for? Just
to-
to press the track back together, like
Yeah,
you're
or apart. Yeah.
Oh,
So
you're
say you've got
splitting
a
track
final
right on
drive
the-
that failed
Holy.
on an excavator. You got to split the track apart, lay it down, take the component off, and then by the time you're done rebuilding the component and put it back together, you got to press the track back together to be able to do it. Well, I mean, I can't compete against my other dealers if I don't have a track press.
right.
So one tool to do the job.
Yeah, portable 100-ton press.
Right.
Portable 100. All right.
That you hang from your crane because you can't possibly lift it.
Nope.
And I'm sure he's probably set up with a big job box because you got different pins and bushings. I mean, it's a major expense that
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to put out. And there's, the high torque. I haven't bought one in quite a while. I don't know what they're going for now. They're quite a little less than they used to be, but they're expensive too. You could spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a high torque.
Right.
So now, thinking about these tools, and some of these tools I've never personally used or seen. So now, how do you even find a technician? So now you've got this expensive truck you got to outfit, very unique and complicated tools with torque specs. Where's the techs that know how to do this stuff?
Where are the techs that know how to do that stuff?
Right. It
How do
ends
you
up
find
being
them? Like,
you're
is that-
poaching from your competition, or you got somebody that's frustrated at where they're at and wants to try something else. And you got to give them a shot. So the liability then goes onto you. But yeah, you got to. I don't know. It's a lot of.
Is it
figuring out
harder
who
to
they are.
find a person that can do this kind of work compared to semi
it's
18 wheeler?
twice as hard, at least.
yeah.
Because now you're going to add in a CDL,
Right.
Oh wow,
which is
that's
a clean
all
driving
right.
record, a CDL,
Right.
and somebody that wants to work those hours outside. Shop work's hard enough. You're dirty, it's hot, it's loud. Now you work out in a blizzard or a rainstorm or
Yep.
I used to love being out in the field from about 6 to 7:30 in the morning, and after that it was no fun. It's beautiful in the morning. It's the best job in the world first thing in the morning, but
All right.
after that there's not much fun.
This is where separates the boys from the men going out
Yeah.
and doing this
Right,
kind of
yeah.
work.
It's a different mentality when you're looking at a field tech. He's not going to throw his hands up in the air when he can't figure out how to get the job done because he doesn't have the exact right tool. Like, I put a strap on a wrench and put my crane on it to get a bolt loose.
Yeah.
I didn't have an impact big enough to get the bolt loose, but I got a wrench that fits on it, and I got a crane that'll pick up 8,600 pounds. I'll either that or I'll break the wrench. We'll figure it out one way or the other. And it's just a different mentality of we're not going to quit until we absolutely exhausted all of our resources. So finding the person that's willing to keep trying and have the ability to think out of the box makes a big difference. And that, you're going to pay for it when you want a field tech that's going to do the job and put the hours in.
Yeah.
Is there? Sorry.
I'll say back. Do you pay more for the field techs than
Oh,
you
yeah.
do for in-shop techs?
Yeah, it's 30% more, probably.
Easy.
Oh wow.
And your your bill rate, I'm sure your labor
Yep.
rate for that is
Yep.
equally as high compared to the in-shop rate.
Right.
Yeah. The best thing that I've found for field techs is to build your own. Is
Okay,
find
so
somebody
you're
that's got
growing your
the
own.
attitude and aptitude that wants to do it and doesn't give up on the first roadblock he hits and will stick with it long enough. And then a customer that's willing to give him a shot when he takes twice as long, and
Right.
you end up eating half the bill. So it's a little expensive, but the leprechauns of these guys that have 20 years experience that are going to come to work for you, they're not out there. They're not looking for a job. They know what they're worth, and their employer knows what they're worth. Usually, there's rare cases, but I see these ads all the time for guys that are advertising for a 20-plus year. I'm looking for 20 years experience as a field tech. Must have this, must have that. And you're like, yeah, good luck.
Right.
They're not out there. You got to build your own. Start with good people. And my philosophy has always been, I hire with a shotgun and I fire with a scalpel. So
I like that.
yeah,
What are some of the backgrounds? So, I think you talked a little bit about the mentality someone has, problem solving, not giving up. But beyond that, which is sometimes hard to measure for, what is a good background? Have you found any specific backgrounds that are successful?
farm kids.
Yeah.
Just because
farm
they're
kids, yeah.
it's-
Worth ethic.
Yeah, they have good-
ethic is
and you
what
can-
you're struggling with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can I think the biggest thing is they're used to being on the farm and not having everything they
Right.
need, and so they'll make do and they'll build a wrench or build a tool and they'll get it done. They'll stick to it. But
Right.
a lot of people, the first hurdle they run into, well, I'm done for the day. Load everything up. Want to head back to the shop. Where the farm kids, they've always had it, beat into them where we don't go to town for anything, for any reason. And so you'd better make it work.
Yeah, before the sun up and when the sun goes down, you're just working day and night.
Yeah, cut apart that old tractor and the scrap iron and make it work. So it's those kids seem to make it work. So
I think it's a mentality, just realizing that there's going to be days that work's going to own your life. And so you got to figure out how to make that work-life balance at some point, and finding the right person that's willing to do that it makes you pay for it when you find that person that's willing to do it. So, we had some guys in the shop that wanted to be field guys and realized they didn't want to be field guys when they realized the customer's going to call at 5:30 at night and expect their machine, you to be out there on Saturday morning on July 4th to get that machine running because they're trying to pave and that machine can't sit because they're losing, $10,000 an hour as the plant's running and trying to make asphalt and the trucks are sitting there full and the paver's not moving. Man, you better be there.
Yeah, they see the money and think, "Oh, this is great,
right.
Make some more money." But then they realize what they're getting into.
Yep.
So the average ticket size must be up. Like the invoice that you're producing, it must be. Is it 2x that of like a semi truck invoice, or does it run about?
I would say it's all relative to the cost of the machinery. Your average over the road truck's what, $200,000 to $300,000, depending on what it does and what it's equipped with. And it's nothing to work on $750,000 machine.
There was a rule of thumb too that
10% of the cost of the machine.
There it is. So 10% of the cost of the machine should be expected to maintain the machine.
Like if I have a $10,000 invoice on a $500,000 machine, and they're squawking about it, either they're mad because their operator screwed up and it cost them a bunch of money, or we had a miscommunication in the process of what it's going to take to get this machine done, because that's not crazy money for the cost of the machine.
So if you buy a $500,000 machine, plan on spending 10% to keep that thing maintained and up. And if you don't have the money, the 10% to maintain it, you shouldn't have bought the machine to begin with.
Yeah, usually the people that are complaining about the invoice are people that haven't been in the business very long, and their threshold for pain isn't there yet. So they just see $10,000 and like, oh my goodness, that's a bargain, right? Yeah. And anybody that's run equipment long enough, they'd be like, no, that sounds right. That's right in there. And the people that have just gotten into the business for a couple of years and they run their equipment down, you send them a $10,000 bill and they lose their mind. And so it's just relative, like it's their threshold for pain. It's once they figure out, because everybody wants to get into construction, there's some money in it if it's done right, but there's a lot of cost in it. So
I think it's understanding too. So I've got a couple customers that, like, say they farm, but they've also got an excavator and a dozer to work on drainage, or if they're reshaping some ground because they've got terraces or something like that. Sometimes those guys don't realize that they got into this machine really cheap and realize that it was a great deal, but don't understand that their $7,000 or $70,000 25-year-old dozer is going to cost them a pretty penny to keep going when their major component finally fails because it's got 7,000 to 10,000 hours on the machine. And so, it might be $40,000 to rebuild that torque converter.
Yeah, there's a reason somebody sold it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're looking at it.
Somebody better at management sold it because they know, because it's industry standard of how long each component will last.
Right.
And those equipment managers are watching that. And so maybe they put an engine in it at 10,000, like on an excavator or whatever, but they know the hydraulics is probably at 12. And so they'll sell it as a new engine, but the hydraulic pumps are junk. And the hydraulic pumps could be $30,000, $40,000.
Oh, yeah.
And so they know what it's worth. But the guy that's just getting into the business, he sees this excavator, he's like, ooh, this is a good deal.
Yeah.
And somebody unloaded it for a reason. So
maybe it makes it a few thousand hours, a few hundred hours, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And
it's the same mentality of guys that buy stuff on auction. Like, not everything at auction is junk, but everybody's junk is at auction.
That's a good quote.
It is.
You just got to know what you're buying.
We are talking about the cost of maintenance and the cost of repairs. We can shift a little bit and talk about how you communicate that to customers. And when you think about, especially in the field, the labor rates being significantly higher, and how do you go about communicating value and making sure that you're delivering enough value to justify the prices and how you think about that versus their other options of working with a dealer?
I think a lot of it comes down to the relationship you've built over time. That value is in your ability to communicate to them where you're at with the repair, how thorough you are with your diagnostics, to get to the point of this is what the actual repair needs to be, and then being on the same page about figuring out parts and then moving forward with labor at that point. So I don't do a lot of quotes as a whole for a repair on stuff unless it's, say we're putting a full fuel system on an engine. So we're talking, I'll at least give you a ballpark of what I think it'll take for labor and what parts that it would cost. And then at that point, it's plus or minus what it should be. But we can get close. But my ability to hold you to, or your ability to hold me to that quote, I think gets a little more gray in the field because there's a lot of things that a shop environment gives you that I don't have. I've got to account for the wind and the dust and everything else around to make sure when I open that engine up, I'm liable for that engine. And we're going to park it in the right spot, and I've got to set up a windbreak to make sure that the dust that's blowing around at 40 mile an hour isn't going into the engine and things like that too, that, you can only account for so much. I can't predict the weather the day that I go out to that repair, and if they got to have it tomorrow, it might be raining. So now we're setting up tarps and everything else to try and keep rain off what we're doing. And
oh, wow. Yeah, so it's not just time and materials
Right.
just for the repair. It's everything else that's going on around.
Yep.
Could be a muddy situation, whatever.
Yeah, there's plenty of times you get towed in and out of the job site. Like, you got to fix the machine to get
Yeah.
yourself out. So you hammer on the accelerator until you get to the machine and hope that you get it fixed so you can get yourself back out, because otherwise you're not gonna.
That happens more often than not. Because
Right.
when it's a rain day and everybody else is shut down,
Yeah,
they want their
exactly.
machines fixed, and so
Right.
you got to tow the mechanic in
Yep.
to get to it. But as far as estimates go, we don't give they're guesstimates. So
It's like a wild ass
we give
guess.
right. So we give a best case scenario, right?
Right.
So this is what it would cost for us to go out there today if everything went well. This is what it's going to cost. But this is the best it's going to get. It only goes up from here.
Yeah.
And this is what we cost per hour after this. So it's you give them you don't want to ever give anybody sticker shock, because that
Right.
upsets people, and then pretty quick you don't have a customer the second time. But just be communicating, and you'll get kind of the feel for guys, especially the guys running old equipment. You got to have the conversation right up front. You're like, hey, it's a $10,000 dozer, and I can easily put that in there. What's it worth to you? Do you want me to fix it? How far do you want me to just cobble it together? Because now remember, it's cobbled together, and if I do all this work and it's cobbled together, it may not even work. I tried, it didn't work. So you just have to be upfront with them, saying, it's up to you. Is it worth it to you to put this money in it? But we run into that all the time, and I thought about for a while, just saying I won't work on equipment this year and older, but you can't really do that. So we just kind of, if it's an old machine, we have a talk right up front that says, this thing, there's not much value left in it. What's my limit on it? What can I do before you want to just junk it? So
Just give them the ownership on the invoice.
Yeah.
We're ballparking, this is what it's going to cost. You tell me if you want to do it or not. It might be worth more to him running than it is broken. So maybe it's worth putting the 10 grand into it, even though he bought it for 10 grand.
Yeah.
Now, these are local people that are almost captured. So you don't have transient business where you have trust issues and chargebacks and things. Do you end up with disputes, or is this just like a good old boy network where you guys are just doing right by people, trying to be honest and upfront, and they get it, or you try to over-explain it with service?
I've been hung out on a few jobs, but that was when I was in the oil field. And things were they're all new companies that they thought they were really rolling, but when it came to the end of the month, they weren't actually making any money, and then they were out of business the next month. Sure. And so the small guys that you don't know or haven't heard of, you gotta watch them.
Okay.
The dealerships were taking in the oil field, they were taking a $5,000 deposit on your credit card before they'd even send a service truck out.
Sure.
And we never went to that, but they would take a deposit. And that's what they figured it'd cost for that tech to go out there, do anything, and come back one day. So they took a deposit on a credit card, and they wouldn't move without it. Unless you were an established customer they knew about, they'd done business with, they absolutely wouldn't move until they had a deposit.
Do you guys take credit card payment off for these types of repairs, or is it typically?
So mine's, I guess I would say the heavy equipment side is a lot different because, like you said, it's not transient nearly as much as the over-the-road truck repair side. we've got contractors that'll come to town, like say they're putting up really big power lines that are coming through and they're going to be here for 2 years. They're still transient business, but they're at least going to be here for 2 years. So you know they're not running away. You might struggle to go find the job site foreman because he might know that you're trying to find him. But as a whole, our business is fairly local. Like I know most of my customers, at least from a relationship standpoint, and I know that they've been in the community a while. So my customers mostly pay by check. Like
Traditional
genuinely.
check.
Yep.
Big
And it might
corporation
be
cutting checks or whatever. Yeah.
It might be, QuickBooks printed checks or something
Or
like
that
that.
too, all right.
But I've got one customer that pays with a credit card. And that's fine. He appreciates the portal to be able to do that, and I don't mind. Then I see it all come through, and I know the payment was made. But it's just it's a different transaction relationship because I got, like we were talking about at Diesel Connect. You've got customers that don't want to pay their bill within 30 days, so you're hounding them. But you got to figure out how to dance the line of don't be an asshole, but you got to get your money too because you need to work with them and they need to work with you. But also, I'm not working for free.
Right.
So.
Just to jump back, we had somebody ask a question online when you guys were talking about 10% to maintain the equipment. They were wondering, is that 10% per year?
Yes.
Okay. That was
Yes.
the way I would.
Not the life of the machine. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like it could cost you legitimately 10% of the cost of the machine new per year to keep the machine going, depending on the hours on the machine.
So a $500,000 machine, somebody could spend $50,000 per year maintaining and repairing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Like you said.
That's probably a low number.
Right. I mean, you can on a hydraulic driven machine, it's nothing to spend 40, 50 grand to repair that kind of machine by the time you pay for parts and labor. Because if a pump takes a crap and it sends metal through the whole system, you're either legitimately cleaning every single line that oil traveled through with little, darts and cleaning all of it and replacing the pumps, and all of the pumps and motors get sent to a hydraulic shop at a minimum to be inspected and make sure that they're clean. Or you're going to end up doing the repair 3 or 4 times. And
Or you take it to the auction.
yeah, right. Like I said,
That's
everybody's
what I
junk.
recommend.
Yeah.
When you scatter a pump in a
Yeah.
excavator, you should go to the auction.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
It's
It's catastrophic. It usually totals the machine.
Yep.
It's
'Cause
just
you pull
mind-blowing.
everything that touches oil.
Yeah.
Has to come apart.
It's because some of this equipment isn't just $500,000. There's
Oh, no.
there's multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment.
Oh,
so
for sure.
Yeah, you want to get up into the big mining equipment. I mean, it's nothing to have a $7, $8, $10 million machine, and they've got fleets of them. You start talking big haul trucks. Like a 777, 769, all the the medium-sized cat haul trucks. Those are easy $1 million+ machines, and they've got fleets of them.
And so those repairs, you're going out there, you might do some maintenance or some type of general repair on that. It's easy, quick 10 grand.
Yep.
You might be there several days to do what appeared to be a basic repair.
Right.
Just because of the sheer effort that's involved.
Sure. And so the only other thing we didn't talk about was a lot of these big established customers, especially when you start talking mines or things like that, those guys probably have a legitimate shop on the mine site, and you're going to go work and potentially work in their shop on their machine. So they understand the reality of how much it's going to cost to haul that machine wherever your shop would be. So they'll call you out there to come work on it, save the freight, and they've got a shop where they do most of their own maintenance anyway, or they park the machines in. So that helps them at least, especially when you're worried about contamination because it's dusty and windy and things like that, if you're opening up a major component. But
Why would you sub out? Is it because I have people on vacation, or it's the technical, like maybe like when we took our repairs in-house, we only did light repair. We didn't do any in-frame or any heavy repair, but it was all 18-wheeler. Is there like a guideline to heavy equipment where if you're going to do internal repairs, you stop at a certain point, or?
So on the mines, usually when a contractor comes in, the mine mechanics are so hamstringed by safety, they can't do anything. And they'll get a subcontractor and there doesn't have to quite follow all the rules
To get some shit done.
to get some shit done, right? And so I don't want to throw any mines under the table, but that's why a lot of subcontractors are in mines, is because they have got MSHA's got it so locked down. I could tell you horror stories of the crazy things we've had to do for safety on mine sites. Like, we couldn't have hammers on one mine site. We had to have all plastic hammers or soft blow hammers. We couldn't have a ladder. We had to have, anytime we were off the ground, we had to have a man lift. We had to be task trained on every tool in the truck.
Wow, to get certified to be.
Right down to screwdrivers, Like,
Oh,
I mean,
You're at a mine, and
Right.
like this doesn't even make sense. I'm thinking like some steel-toe boots, safety glass, and a hard hat. Let's go.
Yeah, but the flip side is when you go to a mine, it's the dollar amount that you're charging isn't the factor. It's mainly your safety rating to get in there.
Oh,
and
'cause
following their safety rules as close as you can and still get stuff done. So it's really not a dollar thing when you go to a mine.
We ran into it at dealerships where they were telling the safety at our dealership was telling us that if we don't figure out how to have zero incidents, we're not going to be able to go repair these machines at these mine sites because our safety rating is too high for them to allow us on site.
Oh wow! So even the internal shop safety rating for slip trip
Well,
falls,
it's a company-wide
whatever.
safety rating.
Right.
Yeah, it's a national company that rates your safety. I can't remember your safety, and I can't remember the name. It's like Safer Web, but it's I can't remember. But you have to report all of your work comp and any of your claims to it, and then it's kind of like a credit rating for your company. And to get into these bigger mines, you have to have that program, and you have to have a certain score.
Oh, wow.
To be in there, and so it's not like you're not bidding it for dollars. You're bidding it with your safety score.
Wow.
So-
Interesting.
Yeah, it's quite a little different.
I mean, now maybe we switch and talk a little bit more about safety. I mean, what kind of safety programs do you have? How are you monitoring and reporting, on your safety records?
So mine's completely just on me, I guess. And if my biggest thing is I just have to make sure I carry the right liability coverage for wherever I'm going. My big companies that have high liability, dollar amounts for going on site, or places that have on-site explosions and you don't know when, and they don't know when, because like at a scrapyard, you'll have guys bring in scrap cars with a hidden LP tank that's halfway full in the back of the car, and the car goes through the shredder. And the guy that's sitting in there watching the car go down is sitting behind 10 inches of bulletproof glass, hoping that he doesn't get killed, because when that thing explodes, the whole place rocks and the building that you're in shakes, and dust comes down. So, just depending on the site, they care about their internal safety and how your liability coverage plays into that.
So first it's insurance, but then do you have to do like quarterly safety training or maintain a certification or anything like that?
I haven't ran into anybody that way. I'm sure Matt's been down that road at least.
Yeah, so I wish I could remember the name of that company that does your safety rating, but yeah, you have to have a safety program in place.
Okay, so
and,
you have to
and follow it with meetings, and you have to have like every company has a different one, like a Take 5 and so you have to have, like a pre-work meeting. You got to have
Okay.
a hot work program in.
yeah.
Anytime you do any torch work or anything hot, you got to have
right.
a safety guy there with fire extinguisher. So it gets really intense with safety, but I'm not in any of those mines that require that anymore. When I was doing all that stuff, it was in Wyoming, and so they're really, really strict down in Wyoming. But as far as like our safety program at our shop, I use kind of a common sense approach. Like, if you're going to be grinding, put your safety glasses on. Don't be a dope. And like, if you're going to be underneath equipment or trucks, put your safety glasses on, because there's always stuff falling in your eyes. Right. Wear your gloves when you're welding. Cover all your skin. Like, I'm really big into skin exposure. Like, the guys always have to have clean uniforms on, because oil-soaked coveralls or uniforms, all that stuff is soaking into your skin, and it's a horrible idea. And I did it for years. I used to wash my hands with brake clean or starting fluid, whatever I had the most of at the time, and I knock on wood, I never had any problems, but other than really dry hands.
Yeah. Yeah. Like these. They
Right.
don't matter
No,
how
it's
much
just-
lotion you put on them, they don't work anymore.
After doing it for years and years, the exposure to the petroleum chemicals and the other chemicals that we work with every day is keep your hands clean, keep your face clean, and you just look more professional when you're doing it. There's no sense in being covered in grease. Like the whole grease monkey thing really upsets me that we get labeled that, right? So we try to keep everything clean, keep your work site clean. When we're working out in the field, keep your skin covered. I used to call it a Terex sunscreen. Our hard hats had Velcro on the back of them, when we'd have like a little flap that would cover our necks from our necks getting burned. I always used to use lip gloss that had SPF 100 in it for my ears and my nose and everything.
Oh,
when I'm
wow.
working out in the sun. But yeah, it's the big thing is everybody thinks you need to be stripped down to a tank top to wear it out in the sun. And it's the worst thing in the world. Like keep everything covered. And take the time when you're working out in the field to make shelter. Like we pack canvas tarps with magnets in the eyelets and all the corners so you can stick them to the machines, make yourself some shade, or stick it to your crane, make a little bit of shade. Like take a minute to set yourself up, because it only takes a few minutes, and it sure makes life easier if you're working in the shade on a 100-degree day versus working out in the direct sun.
Right.
So.
Think about being out in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Working in the sun in the middle of the day. I mean, I've got it's a Pipeliner's Cloud is the brand, but it's a really heavy duty canvas umbrella, and I can hang it from my crane, so I can use my crane and give myself shade wherever I'm working. And it's got a pound in stake, so I can pound it in the ground next to wherever I'm working. It just doesn't take the life out of you so much, at least when you got some shade. And I've got a little Milwaukee electric fan that I can set up, so when I'm stuck down in the, like a pump bay working on something, or if you're in the engine bay, sticking your head in there and the engine's still warm, blowing heat at you, at least you've got something to help make life better. Yeah.
Now, do you provide, with the shop, do you provide steel toe boots or certain things for the guys, gloves every so often?
Yeah,
or?
we keep gloves in stock. We help them with the boots. We do uniforms for everybody.
All right.
That kind of stuff. Winter gear is a big one where we're at.
Oh, yeah, because you're.
Yeah, so we buy winter gear whenever it's damaged and can't be used anymore. But we use a lot of reflective high-vis gear that gets dirty and then it's not reflective anymore. But so yeah, there's no reason they should come out of pocket. Mechanics come out of pocket for way too much as it is with the tools that they have to buy. The safety stuff shouldn't be coming out of pocket. So it's definitely something that we provide. Everybody should provide. It makes your company look better, keeps your employees safe. So
yeah, you spend the money on things that make life better.
yeah.
Because if you lose a guy, like if I'm working for you and I get hurt, well, then you're not making money. I'm not making money, and you're not making money. And you're probably paying me to be hurt.
Right.
And going through the whole work comp debacle.
Yeah, we just going through our work comp right now, and we've never really had any losses. We had a few items in people's eyes, stuff like that they've had to go get fetched out, but that's almost pretty standard for mechanics to get something stuck in their eyes. You can't hardly get away from it. But other than that, we've had a really good success rate with guys not getting hurt. So
I've been doing the full goggles. People make fun of me because they're like, oh, all you need is sunglasses. I keep getting stuff under my eyes when you're grinding or doing something. And so I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to look like a geek. I'm doing full goggles because it sucks when you get something in your eye, a little piece of metal.
that's where the common sense comes in. Like, there's some shops that'll make you wear the full goggles over safety glasses all day.
I can't see. I can barely see.
Yeah, all day, and you're like, oh, this is a hazard in itself. I can't see anything. And so it's just, if you're going to be grinding and stuff like that, yeah, you should definitely. Nobody wants to get stuff in their eyes, so we keep face shields and safety glasses right around every grinder, every cutoff wheel. Like, it's, if you forget yours, they're sitting right there. So grab them.
I should get a face shield. That's a good idea. I didn't think about that. I'm still eating and sniffing it all, but if I had a face shield, I'd be in way better shape.
Yeah, if you've ever ground all day and you were standing there breathing in all that stuff, you ever blew your nose and seen all the black stuff that's in your nose?
Just took it out this morning. Yeah, I know exactly what it looks like.
It's a real thing,
Your first line of defense, nose hair.
Yeah.
That's what I had to cut out.
All right, we'll get back on track. One of the topics we get pretty much every webinar, if people want to hear just your general thoughts on labor rates and how you set them, how often you're evaluating them, and then also how you're thinking about those relative to dealers and your competition with the dealer network. Can you share anything about how you're thinking about that, Jordan?
So I look at my labor rates in individual pieces of what I do. So my labor rate is separated from on-site labor versus travel labor. So my travel labor is less than my on-site labor, but it gives me the ability to track my individual labor for driving and compare that to, in conjunction with a mileage charge. So I charge by the mile plus an hourly rate to get there. And then I can track how much it costs me per mile based on my maintenance and repairs of my truck and the cost of ownership of my truck, and better understand, is my labor rate allowing me to, at a minimum, break even moving that truck from job site to job site. Plus you need to account for the hours and fuel you're putting on the truck, running the crane, running the compressor, running the air conditioner or the heater, because it's not, you're dealing with the elements being out in the field. So knowing that stuff makes a big difference, and then understanding how particular you are versus how particular your competition is. Like I know a lot of places that I worked thought we need to have a technology fee because we pulled the computer out. We needed to have a crane fee because we started the truck up and turned the crane around to use it for this. And in my eyes, that's a lot of paperwork that I don't see hardly any return on. Like, what's the truck cost and what's it take? How many hours is it going to last? And how do I figure out that from a comparative of how many hours I need to build to get to that point? So understanding that. And then me as an independent shop, like we talked about track presses, like I have my own track press. The dealerships that I compete against have a track press per 5 or 6 locations that cover the whole state. Well, I would say based on that mentality, I'm worth a lot more because I can show up, I've got my own press, and you're not waiting for this dealership to get their press from, their location that's halfway across the state that's going to need it for 2 days, and then they got to get it back, and then they got to fix it because the last guy broke it, didn't say anything, and all of that kind of stuff. But understanding those big dollar item costs and how many years that thing should be serviceable and the minimum maintenance it would take to keep it around, and then put that into your labor rate. Like, you got a $50,000 track press, it should last me 20 years. You average 2,200 hours a year build, figure out what that needs to be built into your labor rate. Those kinds of things.
So you'll bill a different labor. If you got to split a track and put it back together, you'll bill a different rate on that job because it costs you more for that piece of equipment, or...
No, that's built into the whole labor rate.
Your rate for every hour you're on accounts for owning that track press.
Right.
In
so
general.
I don't try and nickel and dime and confuse a customer from the standpoint, like we were talking earlier with individual fees for certain things. I bill consumables individually. So if you're oxy-lancing out pins because you're trying to remove something like a hydraulic cylinder or a bucket or things like that, so you bill the consumables, but the tooling that is the oxy-lance and stuff like that is either built into your labor rate or into your shop supplies to account for that.
All right. What do you, Matt?
I do it differently.
All right.
I let the dealer set the rate because they're high, and then I slide in right underneath. But you can't go there with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. You got to provide a good service. You can't just because the dealer's charging that, you should charge that. Like, you need to be comparable in your services and your abilities. But I let them set the rate because their rates are impressive. They know how to charge. Yeah. And I just follow suit.
Do you itemize? Like, will you itemize and...
No. So we itemize by action item.
Okay.
For segments of the job. But I don't put any hourly rates on there. I don't put time. It's just the total dollar amount which shows up on the invoice. I don't put any part numbers because I don't want to compete with Google.
Right.
So...
And Google's not always accurate. It just says that there's a part out there that might exist somewhere, but no one can get their hands on that's
It also doesn't account for freight or what it costs you to get it warranted if you ever have problems.
Oh, there is no warranty.
Right. But they're going to be mad if that part fails and expect you to stand behind it.
Yeah. And a starter from wish.com.
Right.
Exactly.
Is not going to be
like buying stuff from Wish. What the heck? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I let the dealer set the rate. We fall right in there. But we do a lot of, we do by the project normally, or a lot of times. And so I'll bid a project when somebody comes in the area to have the mechanic there every day.
Sure.
And so I'll negotiate something with them, like, give me so much a week for mob. I'll put some housing in there if they're not able to come home at night. But then it's just a time material every day they're there. Usually I put in a minimum. So if there's a lot of rain delays or weather delays, I'll still have a 40-hour-a-week minimum on my contract.
Oh,
and so I set up usually for the entire season when I put a mechanic out. So it saves a lot of, like, it's a little more difficult to do sometimes unless you know the customer you're working with. But to have somebody there every day. Sometimes it gets interesting because they won't have enough to keep you busy. And so pretty quick you're fueling and you're lubing or you're running equipment.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. You're charging the same rate, but we usually do ours by the project. And so we still do piecemealing by the job. You know, if somebody has something broke down, we go out and do it. But I really try to set these things up to run by the season.
Interesting. And then your contractor, are you using legal to write contracts with these customers, or do you have like a boilerplate template?
Have you heard of AI?
Yeah. So you use a little chat
works
GPT.
too.
Yeah.
I got this, and I'm doing this
Yeah.
kind of work for this kind of company.
If things get really hairy, no contract holds up anyway.
Yeah.
So get what you need in it and put all the so everybody's clear on what everybody expects in the contract. But I don't waste a lot of time bothering a lawyer to draw up a new service agreement. So that's all we use.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I keep it as simple as possible.
Then we talk a little bit about parts.
Yeah.
I got to defer to you on parts.
Well, I'm no parts expert other than, parts have got to be hard to find. I mean, there's probably, is there just like old school catalogs that you're thumbing through, or where do you find parts when you need something?
I think Matt and I are pretty well in the agreement that on the heavy equipment side, your pretty much only option is to go to your competition, which is your dealer. There's not an aftermarket competition like there is in the heavy equipment side for parts. So, I mean, you could go to Conequip, and I've been down that road, and the struggle is they're buying parts and trying to get you parts, but they're looking at what they have for cross-reference of specs of the part numbers, and the reality is it might not be exactly right, or they missed a serial number break, and now you got the wrong parts, and they're just like, okay, so now what are we supposed to do? Because they don't really know. So I usually try and run parts, assuming that it's a customer that has an account from a dealership. I run parts on their account, and we run parts. So I'll look up the parts, I'll order the parts, and they're paying for my hours of looking up the parts just the same as they would if the dealer tech was there. And if I'm running for parts, they're paying for me to drive to go get them. But the other side of that is if I'm ordering the parts and the parts are wrong, at least I have some ownership of that, and I had to look it all up and figure it out. There's nothing worse than trying to get a customer to figure out how to order his own parts, and he has no idea. He doesn't even know the nomenclature of the part, let alone get the right part. And the parts have become a headache in themselves to find a decent parts person that's willing to actually do more than the bare minimum of look it up and hope that the part number is right, because they don't even realize that there's a serial number break. So the more that you can figure out and understand those things and the intricacies of every individual brand, having some familiarity with that, because Deere's notorious for putting in part numbers that are different for this serial number break versus this one, and you're not going to know unless you had some experience on those machines, because it's actually the same as, 3 years ago, it was the same as that machine. So that part kept going on the new model until they ran out of that part stock, and you have to know that or you're going to get bit when you order parts. So ordering parts through the dealer helps, and looking parts up on your own is really the only way I've found to negate as much headache as possible with parts. But I'm not making anything other than my hourly rate looking up parts, and parts warranty is handled through the dealer if they have a warranty issue. Like, I'll cover my labor, right? So if it's a workmanship problem, absolutely let me know. We'll figure it out. And, if I got to go out there and I got to pay for the part because I put it on wrong and screwed it up, then yeah, that's on me. Absolutely. You might have coughed it up to begin with, but if I screwed it up, then I'm paying for it. But short of that, parts are pretty well through the dealer. Aside from, we can get oils and stuff like that as a dealer and things like that, and sell parts that way, and, like brake clean and consumable things. But as a whole, major parts are dealership based.
So you're not going to get any margin on the part.
Correct.
But you're going to get your hourly rate to do certain things there. Are you
Yeah,
getting
that's
any
usually
margin on
better
parts?
than the margin on your parts.
Oh, man.
Right? Because it's easy to spend 10 grand on parts.
Yep.
And then now you're waiting 30, 40, 60 days to get paid, and you've got 10, 15, 20,000 bucks on your CAT account.
Yep.
And like it's a struggle, and there's not a lot of money in it, and that's where they'll complain, because they know they get better pricing than you do.
Right. Because
Because they're
There's
buying
a lot of
deeper.
them that do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If we
So-
bought equipment, we'd have guaranteed pricing through Freightliner,
Right.
guaranteed
Yeah.
pricing
Right.
through International. So you couldn't compete anyway.
Yeah. The nice thing that heavy equipment does is there is good access to looking up your own parts. So Cat Sys or like the John Deere JD Link or the John Deere parts store, you can look, just about anybody can look it up, and you can put it all in the cart of everything you need, print that out, email it to the customer and say,
Go get that.
you tell me if you want it all red freight out here or next day, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. Let me know when it'll be here and I'll be here to put it on. But it takes a lot of the responsibility out, and I've had companies that want me to like fill out their purchase orders and stuff like that. I'm like, nope, right? No, I'm not gonna have my name on your purchase orders. Like that's all your company. I'll send you a list of what I need. You put it on your purchase order, or however your accounting wants it, and you order them. But it works so much better. It's you'd think you're losing money, but I really don't. I don't think you are.
You guys are running healthy businesses that are operating. People want you back, and even though you're not getting a parts margin, you're getting this labor in exchange, and it seems to be profitable. Like you're saying, it's working itself out.
Yeah, I'm billing the same as I was if I was turning a wrench to figure out getting the right parts. But at the same time, if parts don't show up, it's not on me. Like, well, the parts are 6 weeks out. Now you get to be mad at the dealer. That's not my fault.
Yeah. But if you were in charge of ordering it and they're calling you every day, then you're calling the dealers. Now you're spending
just wasting
15
more
minutes
time.
a day. Yeah. It's,
Interesting.
no,
All right.
just say, you order them, let me know when they're going to be here. I'll show up and I'll put them on.
Now, semi-truck trailer, will you go get the parts at a local Fleet Pride, Napa, or whatever? This is just heavy equipment, this specialized stuff that you just can't get.
Yep. I went down to I'm still in the middle of it, to be honest with you. Parts nightmare that I had with a Case articulated haul truck, right? Case apparently made articulated haul trucks for a very short window of time. There was only 2 models, and they spec'd a Cummins engine with a ZF transmission behind it, and Case has no service information and no idea anything about those transmissions. So I had a customer that I had went out to and diagnosed that the transmission controller failed. So I talked to the customer, they approved the repair, I called, ordered the part, plugged the part in, the part's wrong because it still doesn't communicate with the dash. Well, the dealership didn't believe me, so I went to my local salvage yard, found a comparable controller from a Terex machine, drove my happy butt all the way up there to this machine that's an hour away, plugged it in, and now it communicates with the dash. Well, that can't be right. So I will be there tomorrow to have words with their parts department because my part showed up. But after over a month and a half of dealing with their service department and their parts through their hands, the parts guy threw his hands up in the air and said, well, that's got to be right. You're wrong. So we fought over proving that it was wrong because I'm like, I know the part's wrong. I proved that it was wrong by going to get this comparable controller that doesn't work right. But at that point, I mean, it was just a struggle back and forth, and their parts department didn't want to pay for their service department to go figure out that it was wrong. So anyway, all said and done, we're going to see how it goes, but that's the only major hiccup I've had of a parts warranty issue being wrong and eating a bunch of labor in the process.
Or you could say, hey, get me this controller. I'll come put it in when you got it. And then when it doesn't work, you say, oh, you got the wrong one. You need to figure that out. Yeah.
I think it makes some good points about not wanting to be deep into the parts process.
Yeah.
So, guys, it's crazy to look down and think we've already gone through an hour. I mean, we could sit here and do this for 2 at least. So we need to wrap up and want to thank you both for traveling down to Phoenix and sitting down with us. Chris, thanks as always. And for the audience, thanks for joining, and we'll make the recording available for everybody here over the next couple of weeks. Just a couple quick things before we wrap up. So if you missed the announcement before, we have officially launched ticket sales for Diesel Connect 2025. I think you guys both attended Diesel Connect before. Hopefully we're going to see you guys again here in next May. So we're going to do it here in Phoenix, May 22nd or 20th to 22nd, I believe. And tickets, early bird access is available today. Prices will go up on tickets September 1st. So for the next 2 weeks, you'll get the lowest tickets that you will get at any point if you sign up. We're doing it at the same venue as we did last year. So we're redoing all the content, more content focused on learning full bay, new enhancements, content to help you better run your business. So hopefully we'll see everybody there. And with that, we'll thank our guests one more time and let everybody go. Thanks, and we'll see you again next quarter.